is. If you were looking at this face and listening to this voice, you were tuned into the best kept secret in sports talk. I'm your friendly neighborhood smoking. You are officially on the hot seat. We talking about Florida State. Just came off a, how would I describe this? I guess all losses are disappointing. So a disappointing loss to Wake Forest. I think it was 31-21 in Tallahassee. So we're going to discuss that. Florida State sitting at 4-1. So without any further ado, paying homage to the ghost over my left and my right shoulder, I know, I know y'all been waiting for the gospel. But God damn it, here it is. Ding ding, classes in session. So like I mentioned a few seconds ago, Florida State did lose. Our dreams of 5-0 came crashing down at the hand of fucking Hartman. Goddamn Hartman. Uh, yeah, 4-1. 4-1 looks a lot fucking better than 1-4. But here Florida State sits at 4-1. Um, with the NC State Wolfpack on the horizon over there in Raleigh, North Carolina. That what NC State is? Who gives a shit? Um, I'm gonna go over a few things I noticed. I haven't had a chance to rewatch the game, so forgive me if some of my points are off base. But listen, guys, to sum this all up, Florida State did themselves no favors. It's already hard enough to beat Wake Forest, very sound team, and god damn it, Clausen is a good head coach. So it's already hard to beat um, Wake Forest. It's even harder to beat Wake Forest when you're already beating yourself. And that's what you saw a lot of. I don't think anybody was on the same page, although you saw a few plays being made. I don't think the team, it's almost as if they had a bad week of practice. And I heard some whispers that practice wasn't as crisp as it had been for the duration of the season prior to this game, but or prior to this game week. But Florida State seemed off. And I'm going to start with Jordan Travis. Um, I've been singing his praises the entire season, and it seems like this particular game, he wasn't out there, and I'm not exactly sure why. And one thing I want to touch on before I move forward, or at least before I forget, is he's not running, and not only is he not running, Florida State isn't running him. There are times in which he pulls when he shouldn't. There's times when well, let me say this. And this happened, this game has happened in the Louisville game. Even against BC, there are times when he should have took off with that goddamn football and he didn't, which kind of lets you know the last two games he probably isn't trusting his leg. But also, I remember telling y'all during the season preview that I wanted Florida State to find a way to play him in bubble wrap. Like I want him to be as safe and as sound and secure as possible. And you can tell the coaching staff, Mike Norvell in particular, are trying to keep him as safe as possible because he's not the best at sliding. And we all know if he says ouch, he's gonna miss a game or two possibly. So you can tell they're calling these plays with caution. Also, to their credit, they have playmakers. They have guys they can throw the ball to and give the ball to in the backfield. So you can see how that's altered the play calling. But he offers a dynamic of running that most teams just can't. You can't game plan for, right? There isn't too much strategy you can implement into a game for a guy who has the wheels that he has. And you didn't see that this game, and I kind of thought you would because um, I told y'all again. You're gonna hear me say this shit a lot, but I told y'all a few weeks ago. If I'm Florida State, until I find out what we have on the offensive line, which we'll discuss later, my objective every week is going to find out how good your linebackers are, because I am running the shit out of Jordan Travis, and it's for a reason that I mentioned earlier, which is he brings a dynamic to the football field that you just can't coach for in most cases, and also that offensive line, guys. The offensive line play has been shoddy the last 2 weeks. I alluded to this last week. I thought it should have played better than what they actually did. And this week, I think when I mentioned depth and us having to do something about the depth or it was going to hurt us, it finally came back to hurt us on both sides of the football, offensive line in particular. Listen, I'm not, we need to bench him guy. And I always haven't been, we need to fire him guy. Like, I don't really make knee jerk reactions. It's time to do away with Jazz. Turntine, he's best as your backup, right? And again, here we are having to discuss depth, and depth has come into play. But mark my words, if you continue to play Jazz and he continues to get the bulk of the snaps at either tackle position, you're going to prematurely end Jordan Travis's season. It's not something I'm wishing. It's not something that I want to happen. I'm just telling you based off play, this guy has lapses, not just in football judgment, but it's almost as if he forgets he's on the field sometimes. Like, it got to the point to where I just keyed in on him every time the football was snapped. I found out where he was, and I just looked at him and only him, which is why I probably need to go back and rewatch the game. But at first glance, this was bad. This was Willie Taggart offensive line era bad. That's how bad I think the line played as a whole. But you know what? Willie Taggart once said something to me that made a whole lot of sense, and I think it's something a lot of people dismiss. All it takes is one offensive lineman to make the entire line look bad in a lot of cases. And again, I'm saying they all played well because they didn't, but he made them look horrendous Saturday afternoon. You have to do something about him, and it has to be done quickly because you're getting to you're already in the meat and the potatoes of this season. And luckily for you, it's still kind of early. So if you get somebody out there like a Julian Armilla and you can get some type of bullets flying past his melon in real game situations, you can find out what you're working with as a true freshman. It's not ideal. It's not what you want to do, but you cannot continue to try Jazz out there and expect to have Jordan Travis upright for the rest of the season. It's not feasible. It's just not going to fucking happen. And especially with you not wanting to run him as much as you are. And I am of sound mind, body, and soul when I say this. They are not running him because they know they need him. He is the most important piece of the football team. They do not want to get him hurt. Well, you're doing yourself a disservice by continuing to play Jazz. And again, I hate to say this, but he has to go. It is what it is, and it was what it was, people. He has to move around because until Scott can come back, you just have to live with Washington, right? Like, you don't really have any other options. But here, even if you didn't have one with Jazz, you make one. And, you know, with Jordan Travis's play Saturday afternoon, it makes you wonder, was he having PTSD as it relates to the offensive line being putrid and horrendous as it had been his entire tenure at Florida State? It makes you wonder if he was seeing some of those ghosts that were in front of him because he was second-guessing himself. I saw him for the first time, I'll say probably the second time this season, but more than I have all season. He wasn't going through his progressions. He didn't look comfortable. He didn't look confident. And that's not something I've seen with him this season. He's had complete control of that offense. He's been as poised as he's ever been. We saw none of that. And when we did, it was probably in the second half when you already had dug yourself a tough-ass hole against a high-powered offense like Wake Forest. So, again, not all on Jordan Travis, but this just speaks to me to the point I made in the opening. Florida State did themselves no favor. You already have to do it. Wake Forest was already going to do whatever they were going to do. And we all know they were going to score at least 35 points. I didn't foresee Florida State scoring just 21. You couldn't have paid me to believe that there would have had to been some catastrophic injuries for Florida State just to score 21 points, and they did, and it scratched my fucking head. And I've told, like I just said this, I am not bench this guy. I'm not bench this player guy. That's not my game. But God damn it, Fitzgerald has to go. He cannot kick another football for Florida State unless there's Armageddon and he's the only kicker left on the face of the planet. Like, I don't see a scenario where he continues to kick footballs for Florida State. And you can tell, even by he has forgotten he's forgotten he's a kicker almost. It seems as if he's forgotten his entire technique. I mean, just regular technique as far as being a kicker. I don't remember what kick this was. Not that he did a lot, but I think it was the one before the half. He punted that football. If you look at the follow-through, he punted that football. How the fuck do you do that? Like, of all the goddamn shit in the world for a kicker to do, you literally have one job. He punted a fucking football. He has to go. There has to be another option. Trot Master Mono's ass out there if all I give a lovely fuck. He has to go. He can't kick another football for Florida State. This is an example of you not doing yourself any favors because I'm telling you, if he makes that field goal before the half, we're probably talking about 5-0, or at least the likelihood or the chances increase of you winning that football game and you going to 5-0. I wasn't. Don't get me wrong. When they went for it after the second touchdown, they went for two. I wondered to myself, what the fuck is Mike Norvell doing? And then I thought about it, like, you know what? I don't blame him. I literally scratched my head like, what the hell is Mike doing? But I get it. I get it. Oh, that was the first touchdown. I mean, I don't know. I've slept since then. But whatever touchdown it was, and he went for two. I think it was the second touchdown. I'm like, man, you know how bad it is for you to want to go for two after every touchdown? You know how bad your kicking situation has to be for you to attempt a 2-point conversion after every fucking touchdown? People, that's bad. It doesn't get any worse than that. You do that when you don't have a kicker, meaning he's been injured, and because who the hell carries backup kickers, right? You do that when you have no options. You have a live kicker who has a pulse, and you still have no kicker. That's just how bad it is. And if you don't understand that, that means he can't kick another goddamn football. You've told him he can't play for Florida State by going for a 2-point conversion after a touchdown. That's you telling him he can't play there. That's you telling us he can't play there. So I don't expect him to go to Raleigh next week. I don't. Anybody else in here do? All right, great. Glad we're all in agreement on that. You know what? I want to be clear about this. And this isn't to pound a dead horse. You know, that offensive line, somebody asked me, was it better than what it was last year? And you know what I told y'all at the beginning of the season? There are a lot of different parts on this offensive line that are not a new parts, but new and different doesn't always equate to better. And like I told you, that offensive line play, it gave me flashbacks. Like I remember a few years ago, I saw a Florida State center. I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Ellerby. I don't know who it was, but I saw a Florida State center get called for a false start. Let me tell y'all something. I've been watching football for 30 goddamn years. I didn't even know that shit was possible. That's just how bad Florida State's offensive line was. I've seen a false start on a quarterback. I had never seen one on the center until, like, what do? You shimmy your fucking shoulders, then you hike the goddamn football? Like, nothing moves until you hike the ball. How the hell do you get a false start? And I was wondering, how the hell do you get a false start, whether right tackle, left guard, whatever? How the hell do you get a false start at home? Guys, they played badly. When you get the punt return you got from Pittman, who played his ass off Saturday. He's played his ass off every game this season, whether he was ignored in the offensive game plan or regardless of whether the ball was going, he wasn't getting many touches. He's played his ass off all season, but he played his ass off. For you to get that punt return, then have the penalty tacked on at the end of the punt return to finish that drive, 4th and 31, people, that is unacceptable. And I would like to think that when you make these many mistakes, the head coach just yank you, because now you're a detriment to the football team. That's adverse to winning to leave a guy like that out there. You don't really have the option. You don't have the option. You really don't. You're gonna throw Willis out there. You're gonna throw Orr out there. Who you gonna throw out there? You don't have any options. So you have to leave a guy like Washington, and you look, and Turntime was getting his ass beat to sleep, and you still had to leave him out there. Or do you? Because I saw you put A.Z. Thomas into the game, right? Because at some point in the second half, you like, okay, goddamn it, enough is enough. No shit. You know what? Great opportunity for me to talk about the defense. I want to tell y'all something. Now, hence and forevermore, whenever there's an opportunity to blame Alan Fuller, I'm gonna blame him. As a matter of fact, his name since the first fucking game, since Georgia Tech game, his name has always been Adam fucking Fuller. Listen, I am going to die on this hill. If there's an opportunity, if you look at the economy, I'm blaming it on Alan Fuller. Anything that's wrong in the country, in the world, I blame it on Alan Fuller, wholeheartedly. It's all his fault, nobody else's. So you have to understand how much it pains me to tell you all. This wasn't on Adam Fuller. God damn, I can't believe I just said that. Yeah, guys, this wasn't on Adam. Now, that doesn't mean he called a great game, okay? But what the hell did you want him to do? You knew going into the game that there was going to be a lot of too high safety because you know they like to throw the ball deep. So you're going to keep everything in front of you, have what you might want to call a bend but don't break defense, get them inside the 20, and make them kick field goals. I would have lived with that all day. Wouldn't have had any issue with that. That game plan is great, assuming you can get some pressure on the fucking quarterback. Florida State could get no pressure with their front four. So what does Adam Fuller have to do now? He has to switch up his game plan and adjust, which is what he gets paid to do now, right? So you bring Jamie Robinson down, you blitz more than you probably would like to. That leaves your DBs vulnerable. And man, they got smoked. And I don't think it's because they're bad, because they were actually in position to make a good, decent amount of plays. It's just that the guys they were playing against were better, which you can circumvent just a little bit when you play when you're like a Tampa 2 or you're playing a too high safety. You can kind of minimize that gap as it relates to the talent level for their receivers versus our DBs. And it's almost like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. What I would have probably liked for him to do earlier was pick his poison. Whatever we're going to do, and we're going to stick with it. Because we're not going to be able to shut them down. So if you're going to give them the run, give them the run. Who gives a shit? The objective is to force them into field goals once they cross that goddamn 20-yard line. Florida State didn't do that. And, god damn it, I want to blame him so bad. But I pride myself on being honest with you guys, and I pride myself on being fair. To be fair, this one really isn't on Adam Fuller. It probably will be next week. I'm hoping it will be next week. But this week it isn't. And speaking of next week, so everybody has been looking forward to this 3-game stretch after the 4-0 start, right? I said it last week. You're going to find out what this team is made of. You have a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions. We're going to get all those answers in the next 3 games, right? So probably should have said this last week, but I predicted them to go 1-2. Thought they were going to lose against Wake, beat NC State, lose against Clemson, right? And if you come out of this 5-2, whoo! God damn it. Now we cooking. Now we are cooking, because you can get the 9 wins if you come out of this 5-2. You can get the 9 wins. 9 wins is very, very doable if you get out of this 5-2. If you come out of this 4-3, you lose a lot of steam, and you lose a lot of steam everywhere. You lose a lot. You lose a lot of steam that you've built over these 4 weeks. So what hurts about, well, not necessarily what hurts, what disappoints you about the loss at Wake Forest the most is that was a winnable game. Because outside of what they did on third down, their success on third down, Wake didn't really do anything. They just blew your socks off. They kind of needed Florida State to do the things that they did in order to beat Florida State. And you look at NC State, and I'm going to tell you something. We've sung the praises of Storms probably since he's gotten here, especially over the past offseason. And it was warranted, right? He has done a good job of getting this team to look physically better. He still has his work cut out for him because that team is fucking weak. The team lacks physicality. Now, physicality is a frame of mind, first and foremost. Let me say that. But secondly, you have to look the part. You have to be the part in order to be physical, right? You can want to be physical all the fuck you want, but if you go out there being 5'11", weighing $105, who gives a shit how physical you want to be, right? And one of the key indicators for me is something I've been saying for the past few weeks. The missed tackles have to stop. That's part mentality. That's part these guys just aren't they aren't strong enough. You look at what's being done in the trenches, the second level and third level. I want to tell you something. Clemson is physical, right? NC State is physical. They're physical to where, every team will punch you in the mouth, But some teams will punch you in the mouth and you'll feel a few teeth loose inside of there. You'll taste a little blood. That's how physical those two teams are. Florida State isn't a physical football team on either side of the ball. They have a few physical players, but they aren't a physical team as a whole on either side of the football. And that in a nutshell is what worries me about the next two games, which is why I want them to beat Wake Forest so badly. I'm not down on the team as a whole because number one, I did pick them to go 6-6. Number two, this was one of the 6 losses I had them getting, but like I told you before, expectations change. So last week I asked you, was it time? And I didn't think you were going to get that answer this past Saturday, but the answers we're looking for, we're going to get, and we might not like some of the answers because you're kind of tied with the depth issue. The depth issues are finally starting to kick. They're starting to rear their heads and kick your ass. Man, listen. I don't know what's going on with that defensive line. I understand Verse wasn't at 100%. He didn't play a good bit of the snaps. I understand Lovett isn't there. But I was lied to about McClendon. I was lied to a lot. I was lied to about Robert Cooper. I was lied to a lot. I want to be on the record saying I didn't believe any of those lies. I'm just telling you I was lied to because those two gentlemen have not stepped up consistently. If they don't, this is going to get ugly. I tell you all the time. You can't block them up front, you're not going to beat them. The only way you can beat a team when you can't block them up front is if they can't block you up front, which is kind of what happened against BC. Well, right now, Florida State can't block them up front because the depth is whooping our ass. So good luck beating a team. NC State is really good defensively. They're not just above average. I think they are really good. And if you guys disagree with me, please tell me in the comment section below. But I think they're really good defensively. I do think that Florida State now have the skilled players that can minimize the damage that I think NC State can do defensively, in the sense of you don't have boom or bust receivers. You have possession receivers. You have throw it over the top receivers. You have back-breaking speed receivers. You have receivers that you can do a plethora of things with. It's just make sure you've been able to utilize them and you have the time to utilize those weapons. And that's where the offensive line comes into play. And also that's where I guess you could say the play calling comes into play. This is the first time against Wake Forest that I thought to myself, what the fuck is Mike doing? As it relates to just sheer play calling. Like, there was some head scratching shit. And I'm like, hey man, listen. Don't make me look like a dick, Mike. Don't make me look like an ass. Because I have been singing his praises as it relates to him calling the game or whomever is responsible, whether it be him or Atkins or whoever it is, right? I have been singing their praises, and I took a step back because there were some bonehead decisions that were made. There were some places the ball went where it shouldn't have gone. There were times when run plays were called and they probably shouldn't have been called, and you ran into areas on the football field where you shouldn't ran. It was a lot of shit that I didn't agree with, and I've always said that I don't aspire to agree with the coach 100%, right? And I'm always going to err on the side of the coach because he knows what he's doing more than I do, right? But I also think that some of this shit is common sense, and you got to stop getting cute. Trick play here is cool, but how many wrinkles are you going to throw in the offense? Part of getting Jordan Travis comfortable and making sure he's in rhythm is let him cook. So some of the nuances, and it seems as if first drive is scripted, but it's like they knew where they were going to attack, and I was fine with that. I thought McDonald was going to play a much bigger role in this game, and he didn't, for whatever the reason, but he didn't. I thought once that you realized you couldn't run the football, you would adjust quicker. They didn't. That bothers me. So here we are having Mike Norvell tell us I have to be better in this area and I have to be better in that area. If I spoke to you all before about first you teach a team how to stop losing, then you teach a team how to start winning. Well, if the coach is learning on the fly, it's kind of hard to teach the team how to start winning because he's doing things that are detriment to the football team. This is, again, adverse to winning. So Mike Norvell needs to clean his shit up in that area so you can put the players in the best opportunity to produce, and these types of things leads to W's. But I'll wrap by saying this. I told you all last week I really didn't know because one thing I hadn't seen Florida State do was face a lot of adversity. Well, guys, adversity is on the bus. It's arriving here because now, just as it relates to how the season is going to finish or the trajectory of the season, it's going to be decided within the next 2 weeks. You have to pull out and win one way or the other because going out of this 4-3, I wouldn't advise it. It's not good. And let's just take this one game at a time. And I've been telling y'all for how many, 2 or 3 weeks, I circled the NC State game. I've had it circled for a while. And there's a reason. So, you're going to go and listen. Over there at NC State is not the easiest place to play. Those people are going to be rocking. They're going to be salivating at the mouth because of what happened up there in Clemson. So I expect the Rockers clear out. I expect a sound football team to come out there and want to punch Florida State in the mouth. Let me tell you something. The most important trait about a person is strength of character. You only grade strength of character based off how well a person deals with adversity. So in layman terms, what I'm telling you is you don't judge a person by how many times they get knocked down. You judge a person by how many times they get back up. People, it is going to be really important and very interesting to see how many times Florida State gets up. So, that said, listen, I apologize for everybody who left a comment. Last week I wasn't able to get back to you. Had a lot going on, but we won't have that problem this week again. I apologize if for everybody who clicked on here and pressed play last week. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. Please continue to hit those Please hit those like buttons for me. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button for me. It does a lot for the channel. As always, you can reach me at the Hot Seat 19 on Twitter. You can reach me on Instagram at the Hot Seat 19. So hopefully we'll be back next week. Better mood, I guess, but we'll see. Until then, y'all be good.